Welcome to English Reading for Learning.
Eleanor Roosevelt, proud and tall. Eleanor Roosevelt was born on October 11, 1884, in New York City. Her parents, Anna and Elliot Roosevelt, were quite rich. But Eleanor had an unhappy childhood. She loved her father very much. She was happiest when her father was at home. But her father was away from the family often. This made Eleanor very sad. Eleanor's mother, Anna, was young and beautiful. She believed that women should be beautiful, but Eleanor was plain-looking. She didn't have her mother's good looks. She was shy, and she didn't smile often. Her mother called Eleanor Granny in front of family and friends. This hurt Eleanor's feelings. Eleanor had two younger brothers. Elliot Jr. was born when Eleanor was 5 years old. Hall was born when Eleanor was almost 7 years old. After Hall was born, Eleanor's mother left her father and moved with the children to another house in New York City. Sometimes Eleanor's father came to see them. Eleanor was always happy to see him. When Eleanor was 8 years old, her mother became very ill and died. Eleanor and her brothers went to live with their grandmother Hall, Anna's mother. The next year, Eleanor's brother, Elliot Jr., died. Eleanor wanted to live with her father after her mother died, but he also became sick. Her father died when Eleanor was 10 years old. Eleanor's grandmother lived in New York City. Grandmother Hall had very strict rules in her house. Eleanor tried very hard to be good. She did not want to cause trouble. She learned to be helpful. Eleanor also had good times. Some of the best times Eleanor had were when Grandmother Hall took the children to her summer home in Tivoli, New York. In the summer, Eleanor spent time with Uncle Theodore Roosevelt and his large family. There were a lot of cousins around to play with Eleanor and Hall. Eleanor learned how to ride a horse, play tennis, and row a boat. There was also time to sit around the picnic table and talk. Although Grandmother Hall was strict, she did love Eleanor and wanted her to have a good education. So, when Eleanor was 15, Grandmother Hall sent her to Allenwood School in England. This turned out to be an important turning point in Eleanor's life. Eleanor had a wonderful teacher at her school. She helped Eleanor to see how smart she was and to overcome her shyness. Eleanor's teacher introduced her to books, people, places, and new ideas. She helped Eleanor understand herself. When Eleanor was almost 18 years old, she came back home. She renewed her friendship with a distant cousin named Franklin D. Roosevelt. They soon decided to get married. Franklin and Eleanor were married on March 17, 1905. Her Uncle Theodore walked her down the aisle. Franklin and Eleanor moved to a house in New York City. Over the next 10 years, Franklin and Eleanor had 6 children. They were a very busy family. One child, Franklin Jr., died when he was a baby. In 1918, Franklin started his political career in New York. Eleanor was still too shy to help. She was also busy with the children. Then, in 1921, Franklin nearly died from the disease polio. He recovered, but would never walk again. Eleanor convinced him to stay in politics. He became governor of New York. In 1932, Franklin D. Roosevelt was elected President of the United States. As First Lady, Eleanor helped people in every way she could. She spoke about Franklin's special programs. She also worked to help women, young people, and African Americans. During World War II, Eleanor traveled all over the world visiting the troops. Franklin was the only president to serve for 4 terms. He died during his 4th term as president. Eleanor thought she could rest now after 25 years of helping others. But President Truman asked Eleanor to work with the United Nations. Franklin and Eleanor created the UN. It was organized in 1945 as a place where conflicts between nations could be worked out peacefully. At the UN, Eleanor helped define human rights. Her work was very important to the world. Eleanor worked with the United Nations until she was 77 years old. She then retired to Wallkill, her home in New York. Eleanor died on November 7, 1962, at her home. Wallkill is now a National Historic Site. After her death, President Harry Truman called Eleanor the First Lady of the World.
Thanks for watching and listening. Please click like and subscribe for new and latest uploads.